goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and hiding. I get those goosebumps
Newcastle
every
United.
time. Come around,
Wembley is a place for
you ease my mind. You make everything feel fine. Worry about those cons. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mag NUFC, the big match preview. As it says here, away days. Away days is back again. Whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, the away days are coming back again because we travel to the Hill Dickinson Stadium on Saturday evening to play Everton. And look, not going to talk too much about last night because we've already covered it already, and I think everyone wants to move on from that one and look ahead to the game on Saturday. But on this fine Wednesday evening, an earlier preview than normal this week. Guys, Chris, how are you 24 hours after that game? Are we kind of looking forward? Are we still frustrated? What's the feeling?
Yeah, a bit tired, Pete, to tell you the truth. We were shot down in a blade of glory last night, but we get up and we carry on. We soldier on to the next one. But how are you, Chris?
All right, mate. Yeah, incredibly busy day. But you know how much I love away days. I love having Mike on. It's always nice to catch up with Mike and talk all things Everton. But I think it's fair to say, isn't it, boys? One of our favourite away day guests. So it's always a pleasure to have Mike on. So yeah, really looking forward to tonight's show. But yeah, on a personal level, mate, I'm all right. Reflecting back over the last 24 hours, looking at the Marseille game. Do you know what? I think you summed it up quite nicely, Pete, yesterday when you said, obviously we wanted 3 points, even a point, and we didn't get it, and it is what it is. But I think ultimately all eyes are on the weekend. Let's make no mistake about it. We've got to improve that league form, and so all eyes on Everton. Make sure we hopefully try and get 3 points. So I'm fully focused for the weekend now. But how are you, Pete? You all right, mate?
Not too bad. Been a good day at work and all the rest of it. Okay, tried to blank out all things football on what was a wild, crazy night over in Marseille. So, look, we move on. We dust ourselves off and we carry on again. And we've got to look forward to the next one. And the next one is, as I mentioned before, at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, a new stadium for Newcastle United to visit. But we have a very, very familiar guest coming to join us. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome in Mike from the Unholy Trinity podcast. So welcome in, Mike, again.
Welcome back, Mike.
Evening, lads. How are we? Yeah, listen, not too bad at all. The Toffees aren't doing too bad. We're all relaxed, we're all calm. It's stability at our football club, the best stadium in Europe, and listen, absolutely flying, aren't we? You know what I mean? So looking forward to another interesting game on Saturday.
Mike, I've got to say, I've been to the Hill Dickinson Stadium, and that's because Richie dragged me there for a
He informed me that how impressed you were, and the fact that you wished that you had it as your home stadium. He fed it all back to me. Don't worry, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember saying that line, but we'll let him have it. Yeah.
Already some cryptic messages being sent in there from Mike just to stoke the fire just a little bit. It's already started. But look, Mike, always great to chat to you. And obviously, and as you said, Everton and not the Everton that we had seen in the previous 2, 3, 4 years. Obviously, new owners, new stadium, new kind of aspirations really as a club. Just in general, really quickly, just sum up what you've made of this season so far. Are you happy with it? Would you have wanted more? what have you made of your signings and your adjustment to the new stadium? Just a quick roundup on all those things, mate.
Yeah, I think obviously it's compared to what we've had in the last, say, 3-4 years. You know, we all know what we've been through. I've been on this show often enough to discuss, obviously, the issues that we had. And it's, you know, from 2-point deductions to an owner who couldn't fund the football club to you know, 2 or 3 relegation battles and last day survivals and things like that. You know, it's absolutely night and day compared to that. You know, since David Moyes came back to the football club, you know, our calm has descended. The big issue, obviously, off the field was the ownership, which was sorted sort of last December. Once they came in, once David Moyes came back in, you know, all eyes were on making sure we survived, and we were very, very comfortable last season. You know, we were very comfortable in the end. But all eyes were on that new stadium, and the most important thing was getting there as a Premier League club. And there was a point where, you know, the building had well and truly started, and we had a few obviously difficult situations in and around the club, and a lot of the talk in and around the city was, are we going to continue to fund it? You know, we got into bed with some real characters to make sure we had money to get through month by month. But listen, all eyes were on getting to that stadium. When the new owners came in, David Moyes came back. He's generally looked at the football club. He's a great fit. He brought stability. He brought calmness. The players responded to David Moyes. We responded to David Moyes. And listen, we are where we are. And I think, you know, the summer was good. I mean, to bring in a player of Jack Grealish's quality, albeit on loan, was a real coup, I would say. He's lifted levels, I think, on the pitch and off the pitch. And then you brought another quality like the likes of Dewsbury Hall, who's had a good start to the season. And you know, that general stability was there anyway. The quality, I mean, Iliman Ndiaye's having a fabulous season. What a player. We all knew that. If he was to be sold tomorrow, we're talking silly money for him. But we've got to make it of a decent side. Let's not get carried away. Let's not start talking about European football and things like that. We're a mid-table side, is what we are. That's where we are. That's where I think we'll finish. But this is the first step on the road to becoming competitive once again. So certainly can't argue with where we are. We've done fairly well so far this season. It's been a good start to the season. And we all now look forward to going the match and matches coming around, as opposed to fretting every single weekend about what was to come.
Absolutely. And look, nothing else kind of screams out stability than what you boys did on Monday night, because you could have argued that all things were going to go right downhill when this moment happened with Justin Garnegay and Michael Keane. He gets sent off for slapping his own teammate. It looks not good at all, and it's all kicking off. And I'll be honest, couldn't believe what I was seeing on Monday evening. But you go and get the win, and you go there with 10 men, and you score a brilliant goal by Dewsbury Hall, and you take the 3 points at Old Trafford. And look, you must have been absolutely buzzing with that. Delighted with that win, and it's propelled you to where you think you should be, mid-table. But look, between now and the rest of the season, what are your expectations? I know you think you'd finish around sort of mid-table, but are there any particular positions you'd want to be? Top off, just under top off? What do you expect David Moyes to produce for you from what you've seen so far?
I think, you know, the sort of group of positions I see Everton finishing somewhere between about 8th and 12th is what I'd probably put us, to be honest with you. We could finish as high as 8th. You know, you can, I mean, look how tight the table is after 12 games. You know, you can win a game of football and go 5 or 6 places. You know, I think we're, 2 or 3 points off Champions League at the moment. Absolutely ridiculous. There's 3 sides, like, you know, there's us, Liverpool and United on 18 points. It's just so very, very tight. So you just don't know, do you? You know, if when you played that final game of the season, it could just be enough to get European football, of course. But, you know, what you always see all the time is with football fans, you know it yourself. You win a game and you're going to challenge for Europe. You lose a game and you're looking over your shoulder about who's behind you. So it's, you know, we're all very, very fickle, aren't we? But I think the aim, David Moyes always talks up, obviously, what he wants us to do as a football club, and rightly so. You know, the basis is there now. We've got all the pieces are in place in terms of off the field. and there's no excuse now for us not to progress. But I still think that, we look where we've been the last, let's say, 3 or 4 seasons. We need a season where we're, mid-table is basically where we are. We're not, we look at the sides who normally challenge for Europe. You go down from, whether it's Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, yourselves, Villa, Tottenham. We're not in that bracket just yet, to be honest with you. And we've got to understand it's going to take a little bit of time, to be honest. But in that sort of middle group of 8 to 12, most definitely a target. As I say, you just don't know. It might just fall in your favour. Other sides could have a poor season, and you can then sort of grab one of those European spots. But our time will come. I'm convinced of that. We've been through some rough years, and listen, I had no grey hairs about 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm knocking now like Father Ted. So it's certainly caught up with me in recent years. So I think that it's one of those. I'm happy with the stability. I'm happy with the calm, and I'll be happy with it with a mid-table finish.
Boys, I'll come to you on this one with regards to Everton. So Mike said anywhere between sort of 8th and 12th. Are you seeing that from what you've seen from Everton, from the minutes that you've seen, whether you've watched all the games or just a few of them? Daz, I'll come to you. Like, what have you made of Everton's start under their sort of new ownership? Do you agree with Mike? Do you think that's a realistic target for them this season, between 8th and 12th?
I think that's conservative, Mike. I think he could even push higher if things went your way, of course. And obviously, case in point to the game, it was a great result against Man United. We've been down to 10 minutes at the weekend, but yeah, there's been some enjoy has been class. But we've talked about him off air. I wonder is that someone we could look at? But I've been impressed with Everton, and he's brought in some young players as well. I'll ask you a few questions about them later on, but Tyler Dibblin, and I'm interested as well in your thoughts on Merlin Roll, because it's someone that I talked about before on our Fully Loaded Transfer Show. But I know he hasn't got many games like Dibblin. He hasn't got many games through yet, but he could be an interesting squad player for you, and see if he can break in.
Yeah, I mean, Merlin Rule, we just touch on him briefly. Sadly, he's had to have a hernia operation about sort of 2.5 weeks ago. So he came on against Fulham and bar the first thing that he did, which was give the ball away because he was being a little bit too slow. he then picked up, and from what I've seen of him, I like him. He's a big lad. He can carry the ball, doesn't mind a tackle. And I think that this season was very much going to be about adjusting, because we had the option. Well, basically, he was guaranteed to sign, to be honest with you, in the summer. He's been, as I say, unfortunate with the injury. Obviously, at the moment, he would have just a Garner Gay and James Garner in front of him. And even to be fair, Timmy Rabunum, who's having a decent season. So he's got a bit of competition there. But obviously, we lose just a Garner Gay now for 3 matches because of his tickle to Michael Keane's face on Monday night. He comes back, I think, for a game, and then he's off then to AFCON, isn't he? So we're going to have probably maybe 9-10 matches without him, with those two things combined. So that would have been the time, obviously, for Merlin Newell to sort of step forward and probably take that position. Because of the injury, we're probably talking mid-December before we see him back, I would have thought. But he should still get enough opportunities to impress during that time. But he is somebody that we like the look of. And he's certainly, I think, perfect for the David Moyes system. It's just a shame, as I say, since he's come, he's had a few little niggles here and there. And when he does come back and he does come on against Fulham and does impress, they then thought, well, we've got a 2-week break because of the internationals. Let's get him in for the surgery now, and then get him back and ready for the busy sort of Christmas and January period. But certainly a good player. Anyone who gets into that Germany under 21 side, they're not a bad player. Yourself with Altamar. Obviously, he's a quality say centre forward. He sometimes plays a little bit deeper, doesn't he? So, but listen, he's a good player. I hope to see a lot more of him. And as I say, assuming that he does impress, he'll be signed permanently in the summer as well.
Absolutely. Chris, your opinions on Everton, how they've got on this season. Obviously, they've signed a few new players, as Daz has mentioned, but they've also got some talented boys. already in the team. They've added the likes of Jack Grealish to that as well. What do you make of Everton from your perspective? Obviously, behind enemy lines, and you get to see a little bit more than we do. What's your assessment of Everton this season? And would you agree with Mike's expectations of between 8th and 12th? Do you think that's realistic from what you've seen?
I think so, yeah. Everton are a good solid side. Obviously, they have skated with, or flirted, if you like, with relegation in the past. But I'll be honest, I was really surprised how well Moyes did when he came back in, because when he first got appointed, I was thinking, you know, they always say don't go back, don't they? But and when he come back in, I was thinking, oh, I don't know, and you know, is he a bit past it? But he's almost just like slotted back in, put his slippers back on, and off he's gone. And obviously, with the new ownership, you tie that in with the excitement over the new stadium. It kind of felt like the perfect time. And I can see why Mike feels really encouraged and really excited by, you know, Everton at the moment, because it almost feels a little bit like, you know, what we were like in the first 2 years when we had our takeover. So I agree with Mike, you know, when he says that things are only going to get better, things are only going to improve. And I think between 8th and 12th is probably fair. Could they exceed that? Absolutely. They absolutely could. The signings that they've made have been really strong. You know, getting Jack Grealish was always going to be a really good coup, because he's a really good player. It's just the fact that he wasn't maybe getting the opportunities. He is quality. I really like Kevin Dewsbury Hall. Big fan of him. Obviously got his move from Leicester to Chelsea, didn't quite work out, and rather than do a Danny Drinkwater and sit there forever and then just fade into nothing, he's actually took the plunge and made a move elsewhere. And since he's come in, you know, he's kind of recaptured that form that attracted the interest in the first place and when he was at Leicester. But yeah, Everton made some smart signings, and I do think, you know, that they will improve, they will get better game on year. My only concern, I suppose, is, and Mike, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, and we were, and we kind of are in the same boat. It's that you've got to make sure the signings are right, haven't you? Because you can't, especially this day and age when players cost so much money, you can't afford to make too many mistakes, like the likes of a Chelsea or, you know, maybe a Liverpool, a Man United, and Arsenal, where you go, I'll get rid of him, we'll get someone else in. Because, as you know, with the restrictions in place, it's very difficult, isn't it, to turn players over, and, you know, making a loss isn't really an option. So that's something that we've done very well. You know, the players we brought in, or the vast majority of the players we brought in, have been a success. But you just want to be mindful that there's not too many players where you have them for maybe half a season, and you're going, they're not going to make it. And the players I'm referring to here, you know, the likes of Barry, who maybe hasn't hit the ground, but Tyler Diblin, I was really, really jealous when you got Tyler Diblin, Mike, I'll be honest, because we were talking about Tyler Diblin for a long time, weren't we? And it's not quite worked out for him yet, but he is still a very, very young lad. So I'm sure there's, you know, plenty of time to improve and things like that. But no, I think Everton are a really, really solid team. And I must as well congratulate Mike, because this must be the first time, Mike, that you've been on this channel, and you currently sit ahead of Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, I don't really care about them. They absolutely drive me nuts. You know, all I hear all day in work is people moaning about it. And I sit there thinking to myself, you just spent £500 million, shut up and just deal with it, because it's one of those, isn't it? You know, we know what modern football is like, and it's obviously all about money and things like that. But quite possibly, they're the worst defending champions I've ever seen. And that's putting it mildly. I think they're appalling. And when you spend that kind of money, you can't be that bad. You just can't be that bad. I mean, we went to Anfield, obviously, near the start of the season, lost by 2-1. And it was when Liverpool weren't playing well, but they were winning games. Yeah. And I was frustrated because Everton, I thought, especially second half, were by far a better team. Yeah. And we should have got something from the game. It was simple, really, for me. And it was frustrating sitting, you know, while standing in the Anfield Road and watching that, because they look miles off it. And it's come back to bite them a little bit now, hasn't it? Because the whole summer transfer window for them, you know what went on in terms of a certain individual. And, you know, they come in, they unsettle players, they think they always get what they want. And guess what? It's not work, but there's no excuse for it for me. I mean, you know, you spent so much money. They brought in 2 strikers, one of them was yours and one of them you wanted and thought that you had in Ekitike. And the money that they spent is absolutely ridiculous. So if your mind, you can't get a tune out of you after 12 games, and listen, if you're sitting below Everton as defending champions, then their fans must be absolutely furious. And I get it, but I don't care, because as I said it yesterday, all I care about is our football club and where we're going. That's nothing else bothers me. I only care about them when we play them, and that's a God's honest truth. I can't stand them, but they seem to have an obsession with us for some reason. They can't have comments about us, but that's jealousy, because their stadium is obviously like a one big hole punch stand that they've got there, which looks absolutely hideous. It's got no atmosphere. It's absolutely soulless, and they're just jealous. And you know, they've got no right to be really. They're defending champions, but it's not our fault, lads. You know what I mean? Just get on with it. Suck it up. They'll finish top 4, top 6. I'm sure that they will. But worst defending champions in living history they are, and we're all delighted to see it. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. They're getting the just desserts for a summer where they came in, they tried to bully teams and bully players and throw the weight around. And guess what, lads? It's backfired, hasn't it? So unlucky.
Absolutely. Is top 4 guaranteed for Liverpool? I'm not sure it is.
No,
I'm not sure it is.
They will turn it around. I mean, as I say, when you spend that kind of money and you bring in that kind of quality, it is going to be turned around at some point. And even if it gets to the point where Slot gets a lead of his G season, they'll bring Klopp back hopefully for a little bit and do something like that. And he'll come in, you know, it'll all be heavy metal football and all that crap again. But you get it out of them, you see, it'll lift them all, and it'll lift them enough to get Champions League football, because they're not, you know, if we're saying that we're 3 points off it at the moment, so are they. You know, you take sort of 2 or 3 wins, and you're back sort of cementing yourself in the top 4. So they will get it. You know, and they should get it, because if they don't, from a financial perspective, it'd be hilarious, because they've got a reliance, obviously, on making sure every single season they're getting Champions League football. But I do think that they will, and he will turn a corner at some point. We all hope that they won't, of course, but you can't spend that kind of money and have the quality that they've got already, by the way, because most of that side are champions from last season. So yeah, they will do, but in terms of winning the league, and I'll say it now, I know we're only 12 games in, absolutely no chance of winning the league.
You know, just to touch on a point, Mike, you were making there, and funnily enough, I was thinking about it today, and I've only just looked at my phone now. I was intrigued. You were talking then, you know, about, well, I'm assuming you were talking about the signings in terms of Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike, and obviously we won't go into the drama. You know what happened. One of the things that we highlighted to, you know, Liverpool fans, we had loads of Liverpool fans in our chat, and we were saying that, you know, Slot was going to have a problem this season in terms of keeping them both happy. And obviously we knew that Alexander Isak was probably thinking he was going to come in as the main man, and then Hugo Ekitike, you know, they just spent a hell of a lot of money on him. It was always going to be a difficult balancing act. And I've just checked the lineup then, and I've seen they've started with Hugo Ekitike. And it just goes to prove the point, doesn't it, that Slot is really in a precarious situation, because he's backed himself into a corner by signing a striker for 125 million, another striker for, what was it, 70-something million, 76 million, whatever it was, on Hugo Ekitike. And it's absolutely backfired on them. And now they're in a situation where they're trying to shoehorn players into positions, not actually reflecting on the fact that, is this what we need? Is this how we should be playing? And this is the issue that he's got. And I do, and you refer to it, mate, I do think it will cost him his job. I really, really do.
Yeah, I mean, there's already, I mean, obviously you see on social media, don't you, like disgruntled fans all the time, every single week, and they flip-flop from sort of wanting them gone to saying, you know, he's the second coming of Jesus and things like that from one week to the next. But, you know, it's football fans for you, very, very fickle. But when you've won the league, the idea is then, you know, how many people were saying in the summer that Liverpool, it was now their time to do a Man City and take over the Premier League and win sort of 4 out of 5, and it's their era, so to speak, because City obviously have dropped off. I mean, I say they dropped off obviously by their standards, but they're still spending, you know, hundreds of millions of pounds every single sort of window. But they're sort of semi-rebuilding because they've lost the core of those players that they had for many, many years, like if you De Bruyne and players like that. But, you know, I think the thing is, there's always going to be an expectation, isn't there? You know, that when you are champions and when you're spending so much money, that you should be defending your title. And let's face it, you should win the league. But you had a lot of their fans out there in the summer. I went on like radio shows, and obviously in our neck of the woods, it's always Everton, Liverpool fan on the same radio show and things like that. And we say our piece about our own side, but it was always about we won the transfer window. That was a 11 out of 10, and this, that, and the other. And Richard Hughes is this, and and it's. I know why fans get so sort of vocal and get so fired up and so excited. I get all that. But it's that arrogance, isn't it? And that's why it's funny, because there's an arrogance about them, and that's the best part about it, is the way that they talk about it, and they sit there on this pedestal they put themselves on, and then they think that they're a cut above. So when it doesn't work out, people are always going to come back and laugh at you, and you just got to take it, because you put yourself there, you set yourself up for a fall. There's no kind of sort of listen, and I even went on the radio and said, listen, certain players that they brought in, Vert is a prime example, big money, young kid, young lad. And sometimes when you come to a big football club like Liverpool, obviously from Germany, and you are young and the price tag is pretty much touching £100 million, do you think that it's easy to deal with that kind of pressure? Because it's certainly not. And he's a human at the end of the day. So it's no surprise to me that Vert has come in and look poor or look bang average, not a 90, £100 million player. But you've got to understand that he's coming in and it will take him quite a bit of time to adjust. And sometimes he just can't deal with the pressure. It's that easy. And when you take him out of the comfort zone of the homeland in Germany and what have you, when you take them away from there, sometimes he simply can't deal with it, and they have to go back, because they can't cut it, and that's a gamble that you take, and no transfer is guaranteed to work, whether it's for £1 or whether it's for £100 million. But obviously the Isak transfer, that should be working, shouldn't it? Because he's been in the Premier League for a number of years. Yeah. He showed that obviously at your place he's a very, very good striker. So there's no excuse there. He was touted. I know you spoke about him very, very highly, and touting him as the best in Europe and things like that, with the form that he was in for yourselves. So he's got no excuse whatsoever, but he looks like a shell of the player that he was. When you watch him, it's just like he's never kicked a ball in his life before. Doesn't look like he's going to score a goal. And it's some things you can excuse, and you should be able to sort of sit back and go, well, okay, he will take time to settle in, so let's stick with him, let's support him. Like Tierno Barry, we're starting to see it with him now. We're starting to see him a little bit. Always going to take him time. And it's difficult when you come from somewhere that you've played probably a little bit easier, and you come into a big football club like Everton. Obviously, expectation is bigger than it was at Villarreal. It takes time, and I accepted that. And I said it from the start of the season. Listen, just stick with him. Give him a bit of time to develop and get used to playing in the Premier League. But some fans, talk is cheap. They say that, but they can't get behind it, and it's always because you were 90 million quid or £100 million, you should hit the ground running. Doesn't always work that way. But let's go back to the original point. They should still be top of the league, or at least the sort of top two, shouldn't they? And they're not. So as I say, that's their problem. But we can all laugh at them while they're having an absolutely shocking season, can't we?
And well, we will. I may continue.
We are laughing. Trust me. These hate watches every week are just absolutely delightful. They are delightful watching these. 68 minutes, 14 touches. That's £120, £125 million in the bank, just nestling nicely for Newcastle United. That's for sure. But look, one thing that we've definitely been able to agree on is that conversation around Liverpool. What I will just mention before we move on is that let's not forget, what was it, 3 years ago? They didn't get Champions League football. Why? We got it. So we've stopped them from getting Champions League football previously. And so it's not a given that they can get it. On paper, they've got the players that should get them Champions League football. But as we proved a few years ago, it's not a guarantee. Just because of their name, it doesn't mean that they're going to get that. And they had the likes of Salah and all those top players playing for them at the time when they still didn't get Champions League football. So not a given. There's some teams that are playing really well at the moment this season. Obviously, Chelsea are up there fighting with City and Arsenal. Villa are doing really well at this point in time. You've got likes of Bournemouth, Palace having good seasons. You know, there'll be other teams that'll push up before the end of the season. We hope we're back up there fighting at some point. So it's not a given. And the way they're playing right now, long may it continue. That is for sure. Just before we move on, because I want to talk about Newcastle United really quickly. What your thoughts on it? But we brushed over that conversation of the red card on Monday. Was it a red card? I know you mentioned he tickled him, but do you think it should have been a red card and a sending off, in your opinion?
No, I think it was soft. I mean, I was there. I was actually in the hospitality with the United fans, so it was fun, as you can imagine, especially when we scored and I got pulled down by two Evertonians either side of me. But I was in that corner, so obviously the away fans are on the other corner. I was right opposite them, high up. So we sort of watch it unfold, and you look at it and you just think, how many times do you see, obviously, players on the same side argue? It happens all the time. This went to another level. I agree with that. Michael Keane threw the first dig, though, or the first push, should I say. Surprised he didn't miss. But he put his hands on the Garner Gay first. And if you look at where the referee is, he's behind Garner Gay. So I think from his angle, he just thinks straight away, he's caught him there. There was a bit of force behind it. And I think it was 4 seconds after it happened, the red card was out. Now, as David Moyes said, give yourself a little bit of time and just take a little step back, a little bit of thinking time. Say to the lads who obviously in VAR and what have you, listen, have a look at it. I'm thinking it's this, but I need to make sure that he's made enough contact for it to be significant. That's what's in the ruling. So people show the first part of the ruling and say that you cannot strike a player from the opposition side or a player or anyone else on the pitch, whether it be your fellow player from your side, official, whatever. It's a red card offence. However, little asterisk to the bottom of that, if the strike is insignificant and there's no real major contact made, then you haven't got to send them off. Now, I would argue that, I mean, there's a massive size difference between the two of them anyway. When he's done it, it's sort of his fingertips have hit Michael Keane's face, and it was very, very soft. But the big surprising thing for me was Michael Keane didn't go down. That was the big surprising thing from the whole scenario for me. But there wasn't that much contact. There really, really wasn't. And Garner Gay only sort of, I mean, he flipped, didn't he? He absolutely went off his cake, and I've never seen him do that. He's such a mild-mannered fella on the pitch, off the pitch. He goes about his business. We know what he's like. He doesn't shake a tackle. He's always busy. He works really hard. But to his temperament, he is really mild-mannered. So to see him do that, and really, he blew a fuse, didn't he? And he was getting, obviously, you saw Pickford dragging him away, and then Njai comes over, his obviously Senegalese teammates as well, to try and, calm him down. He only did that when he saw the red card. So by that time, nothing for him to lose. Then he's just going to go on Michael Keane. But Michael Keane's told him to F off on everything and said, go on, just, F and get off and things like that. So you could see all that. But the contact was minimal. So that's my point is, if he's hardly touched them, take him to one side and book them both, because Keane raised his hands as well. So I think the referee was a little bit soft, a little bit naive, a bit green. I've seen him a couple of times, Tony Harrington, and he's not particularly memorable, but what referees are. So I think personally, obviously I'm going to say it because it's my side, but I just think he shouldn't have gone off. But easy to say when it's your own side. Yeah. But I think the general consensus was that if you were refereeing a game, would you send them off? And the answer would be no.
Mike, I was going to say, just to add in, and just something you said then, and it made me think it at the time, actually, and I'd forgotten. Do you think Michael Keane's reaction helped at all? Because I was surprised, because when it initially happened, obviously, there was a bit of beef between them and that. But do you think if Michael Keane just kind of went and just walked off, the referee maybe would have been a bit like, oh, okay, it's just handbags kind of thing? Because Michael Keane was like leaning over the player who was holding him back. Can't remember if it was Pickford or somebody else. He was like leaning over, like back at him. Do you think that had any kind of impact at all, Michael Keane's reaction?
I think the reaction of Keane, the way that he continued, it was after the red card, because if you look at when Garner Gay strikes him, then steps away and he's away from Keane then, and he's turning around to get on with the game, and the referee just goes bang, red card, and then Garner went again, and then Keane comes back at him. So when he was dismissed just before then, they were away from each other. So again, just put them to one side, book them both, because Keane's pushed in first of all anyway. So you've initiated it. Garner raised his hands to you, and like David Moyes said, I don't think anybody would have even batted an eyelid if we would have just played on, got on with the game. Nobody was sent off, and away you go. And at that particular point, 13 minutes in, the referee literally is destroying the game as a spectacle, because we were on top. They're useless for me. United, another side who, you can see they're improving and what have you, but they're only marginally improving because they've signed 2 Premier League proven players in Mbeumo and Cunha. So 2 lads who obviously have been decent for their respected previous sides, know the league, talented, but everyone else that they've bought, I think is quite poor. I looked at them, and if that was us after spending again that kind of money and being at a club of United stature, I'd be livid, because I thought they were terrible. But Everton there, if we keep 11 men on the pitch, we win the game 2-3-0. No problem at all, because we were all over them and playing lovely football. And to be fair, when we were down to 10 men, we still play football. I mean, look at the goal. Lovely bit of play on the left-hand side. Obviously, good strike from Dewsbury. But it's, Everton now aren't a bad football side. We do like to keep the ball. We've got players who can keep the ball. You can get us up the pitch. You can go at our full-backs, obviously, like of Grealish and Ndiaye and Dewsbury and players like that. So we are a decent enough football side now. But the referee, that decision that he made literally killed the game. So if you're a neutral there, it made for probably not the best of viewing, because it became, as the game wore on, it was just us sitting with 7 at the back and saying, "Sign break us down, lads, and see if you can." But all's well that ends well. But you've got to think, what would the reaction have been if Everton lost the game? Because obviously then you look at things a bit differently, don't you? Would Garner have got a bit more stick? Probably. But I, for one, what he's done for us, and the servant that he's been, and the fact it was so out of character, I just think he would have probably been shown more mercy than most, to be honest with you. And also because Michael Keane's one of those characters who people sort of love to hate as well. We probably would have got more stick as well. But it's one of them. Yeah, it was a major talking point, wasn't it? You don't see it very often. I think someone said there, obviously, about Bowyer and Kieran Dyer. Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing the two, it's night and day. One was like a tickle show, and like I said, one was like Ali Frazier. So it was 2 totally different ends of the scale there. So,
I don't believe you. And they were never Reds whatsoever. They were just tickling each other, like you just said. They were just tickling each other, just messing around, just playing.
Yeah, it was. Play fighting, wasn't it? Play fighting. Listen, no problem. And to be honest with you, I'd fancy Garner to have Michael Keane as well. I really would.
Yeah.
He's probably half the size, but I bet he's quick. We get him in a triangle in about 3 seconds and put him asleep.
He shoved him, and then he looked like he kind of regretted it. And not after he started backing off a little bit. And Gay went through once the red card had been shown, but that was funny. I have to just really quickly, obviously, the lads have put it in the chat, and some of the viewers put it in the chat. Liverpool are losing, so our current Everton Newcastle hate watch is going well at this moment in time. We're loving every minute. I have to say, I watched the handball. What the hell is Van Dijk doing? That's an absolute disgrace. His hands up there. He played basketball or volleyball. He just patted the ball blatantly in the air.
Another point, though, isn't it? Sorry, another point is they give him and Salah these massive renewal of contracts when the two of them are over the hill anyway. They're at the time of the career where your legs can go at any point. It can happen overnight at that age, and that's really how it is. So to give them the kind of money that they're on for the length of time they're giving them to, I think was a really, really poor decision. You've seen it with Salah. He looks the shell of a player. At least if he didn't perform for Liverpool in the past, he'd always score. So you'd forget about the rest, wouldn't you? I suppose as a Liverpool fan, because he was scoring 35, 40 goals a season. Van Dijk, I said it, and people say, it was his best season for years last season. And I just thought, don't think it was. It was at his best, probably pre-injury, which obviously they like to talk about as well, don't they? But he was at his best then. That's when he was at his best. I don't think he's been that good for 2 or 3 years, and obviously I've not seen what he's done there, but I can only imagine. But in their guys, he's the best defender in the world there's ever been, and ever will be. So let's let him get on with it.
He does the classic thing where when you get to a certain age and you can't do what you can normally do, he's become a delegator. So what he does, he doesn't do any of the defending himself. He just delegates, he tells players what to do and where to go, and he just kind of marshals it. But when he's been actually asked to defend this season, he hasn't been good. And strikers and forwards that you would expect him to handle, he's not been able to handle, and they've actually embarrassed him at times. And even, I mean, PSV are not the best side, but they look like they're running right against Liverpool right now. So, look, forget Liverpool anyway. The hate watch will continue. We'll let you people know in the chat if there's more goals for PSV. If Liverpool score, you'll hear nothing, but we'll move on. Just a quick one on Newcastle United, because we'll get to tactics board and talk some other bits as well. I imagine there's some other questions as well. In fact, it might relate, to be fair, with the super chat. There was a super chat in earlier, so it might relate to the question and the comments that we'll probably discuss.
I'll throw the super chat in now. So big shout out to Benny Boy. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Much appreciated.
Cheers, Benny Boy.
Benny Boy says Pope's howler was so embarrassing. Mike's gonna love this, isn't he? Pope's howler was so embarrassing, but Eddie's post-game comments indicate he'll start this Everton, seeing as he referenced Pope's crucial saves in previous games. Love Eddie, but he's far too loyal.
So, in relation. In relation to that,
you can start Pope, you can start Ramsdale. They're both useless, so it makes no difference to us who you start. I tell you right now, Ramsdale is the biggest fraud of a goalkeeper you are ever likely to see. Nick Pope is much better than Ramsdale. I've never been a massive Nick Pope hater. I only mention Nick Pope because he's not Jordan Pickford, and Jordan Pickford is quite clearly the best goalkeeper in this country. So there's no argument there about that. Everyone fights for the number 2 position, don't they? Whether it's Dean Henderson, Pope, Trafford, Ramsdale, they've all tried, they've all failed. But for me, Pope is by far a better goalkeeper than Ramsdale, in my opinion. Then you watch Ramsdale, I mean, how could somebody who was touted as being the next Jordan Pickford, if you like, and taking over Jordan Pickford in between the sticks for England, how can he be happy sitting on the bench at Newcastle? How can he be? Where's his ambition there? He's gone down with numerous sides as well. So if I'm Eddie Howe, that's why I'm playing Nick Pope, because he's a better goalkeeper. It's just as simple as that. I know he's made mistakes, and I hope he makes another 2 or 3 at the weekend. We'll all be happy with that. But
no,
I'm also in the goalkeeper. I'm an ex-goalkeeper myself. So I'm always I always defend goalkeepers because I always feel they get a bad rep in terms of when they make a mistake, they automatically become the worst in the world. But it's the most magnified position in football, isn't it? Because if you make a cock up, generally a goal was scored. Hence why they're always a target for criticism, aren't they? And I think that if you look at defenders, midfielders, centre forwards, they all make mistakes. Centre forwards miss open goals all the time, and they miss goals that they should really be scoring. But goalkeepers get so much flack if they make a mistake. Lee Dixon hates Jordan Pickford, absolutely hates Jordan Pickford. He cannot even be playing and he'll blame it for something. But there's something in commentators where they just want to give goalkeepers so much grief if they make a mistake. They know they've cocked up. Of course they do. They've cocked up. Doesn't make them bad, though. Do you know what I mean? Some are better than others. Some make less mistakes than others, of course they do. And they tend to be the best ones in world football. But I think to sort of, look at a goalkeeper and he might have made, the odd mistake here and there. I know Pope made a bit of a cock-up in pre-season. I think someone said before against Celtic, wasn't it? And I know I saw what happened last night. You're making these split-second judgments as goalkeepers, as you are all over the pitch. And last night Pope thought, I can get there, I can get to that. And sometimes you make the wrong decision. They all do. But just to say, to defend him, he's not a bad goalkeeper. Let's be honest with you. He's just not Jordan Pickford. And I'm sorry, lad, but just the way it is.
What do you say to that? boys.
Yeah, look, he's had a few howlers recently. He started the season really well for us, but like the last few weeks, we've been calling to give Ramsdale a shot. Like Ramsdale has only got 2 or 3 starts, and one of them, like he came on in the game as well, and it was immediately was first job was to try and save a penalty. Like it's easy. He hasn't had a fair crack of the whip yet, and how are we going to know if he's good enough to hold on to and to maybe purchase if we don't give him a shot? Because otherwise we're definitely looking for a new keeper. Maybe we're looking for a new keeper anyway come January or the summer. So we need to have a decision. But I saw your picture you had on the screen here, Pete, and I knew I saw something else today. So there was a Stop Oil. Now there's Stop Popey. Stop Popey is the new one going doing the rounds. We want Popey out. Ramsdale in Saturday.
No, and the reason to say about Ramsdale is, sorry to go on about him, but he's one goalkeeper who does frustrate me because he seems to make himself smaller when he dives, which is impossible. But you got to ask yourself, why at Arsenal when they brought him in for big money? He gets a number 1 shirt and he's playing week in, week out. Why do they go out and buying David Raya if he's so good? Why? I'll tell you why, because he's not a good goalkeeper. And he obviously goes to Southampton. He goes down with them. He's already been down, I think, with Sheffield United as well. And then obviously you come in and say to him, listen, you can be number 2. And obviously you can challenge Nick Pope. But he's quite happy just to sit on the bench. And from a mentality perspective, I don't get that. Because he's still fairly young, isn't he? He's not an old goalkeeper. So why is he coming in at that age and that stage of his career and thinking, you know what? I'll quite happily sit on the bench and play number 2 and play second fiddle to.
He was at Southampton though, weren't he? Southampton just got relegated. Like this is the conversation we had in the summers. Because if you look at all the top teams, even in the top half of the table, there's no one really that's crying out for a goalkeeper, not necessarily a first choice goalkeeper. Like, and so if you look through all the teams, there isn't really anybody that would need him as a first choice goalkeeper, and he was never going to stay at Southampton. So coming in to Newcastle and saying you're going to be given some games to Newcastle, we're in the Champions League, we're fighting on 4 fronts. He was obviously sold a dream of being able to get minutes and playing some form of minutes in part of a rotation. But he's only he's played 2.5 games or 2 and a bit games. He hasn't played a lot of football. I see what you're saying. He's not as good as shot stopper as Nick Pope. I would say we've been trying to evolve this team with having a ball-playing goalkeeper for a while. And we've known for a while that Nick Pope is not that good. Distribution with his hands, great. We saw it in the Champions League. We saw it even again last night. He did some great distribution with his hands. But I would say Ramsdale's just as good as Nick Pope, but in a different way. That's just my opinion on it. I don't know.
Just to go back to the point about obviously other sides not needing a goalkeeper. United had Onana, who obviously they wanted to get rid of. There was loads of talk about obviously he's gone off obviously to Turkey now, and they've replaced him with is it Lemons, who played against ourselves, who looked all right, but I still think he was a fault for our goal. To be fair, I think he was really poor for that Dewsbury goal. But why weren't United, if they're looking, because they're replacing him number 1, why are they looking at a goalkeeper that they can get for decent money from Southampton because they've gone down, who's a really good age, who was at some point the next big thing? Why aren't they going to get him? And they're a huge football club, and obviously no European football for United this season, but obviously most seasons they're going to be getting into Europe. And they weren't looking at him because he's useless. And that's, it might sound really harsh, but honestly, when you say that you want to, I mean, you watch Pope more than I do, of course you do, and you know more about Nick Pope than I do. I've watched him over the years, obviously at Burnley, seen a bit of him with yourselves. Always thinks he tends to command his box. He's a big lad, isn't he? But it's one of those where sometimes don't be so quick to sort of maybe cast a player aside and say, oh, we need a change there because Ramsdale is just not that change. You need to go out, I agree. If you want a ball playing goalkeeper, you've got to go out and go and buy a number 1 who can do it all. You really, really do. If you want to evolve and do that, then of course you do. And if Nick Pope is not the answer, which he's not, because obviously you want to be Champions League football every single season, and I totally get that. So if you want to do that, your goalkeeper can't be Nick Pope. It certainly can't be Aaron Ramsdale. It has to be somebody in that group above. The question is, who is that going to be? But I just don't get, obviously, the fact that Ramsdale. It's more from a mentality perspective for me. When you're a certain age, you get one career as a footballer, and you're coming into your peak years. Why aren't you going to play first team football? If you're so good, you're playing first team football for a Premier League team. Even if it was a side who were, say, mid-table, bottom quarter of the table, I'd have more respect for him then. If he goes, listen, I want to play week in, week out. Don't go sit on the bench at Newcastle. It's just a waste of time, because you're not as good as what's in front of you, in my opinion. So I hope he does start. I hope he starts at the weekend, because believe me, if he starts ahead of Nick Pope, Everton will win the game, because I don't rate him in any way, shape or form.
Interesting.
He doesn't watch this show, does he?
I hope not.
Of course he does. Of course he does. But that could be a good thing, because if he does start, it could it could spur him on to have a worldie.
Yeah, maybe it will. Maybe it will. But I seriously doubt it. But listen, he's your problem, not ours. We've got the best goalkeeper probably in Europe at the moment, so we're quite happy.
What since you're part of the goalkeepers union, Mike, what do you think of Trafford? Because we talk a lot about him.
Another one though that I just don't get. I think he had a good season, obviously, at Burnley last season. Obviously, he's breaking all kind of clean sheet records, which, by the way, he certainly improved from when he played for them in the Premier League. He really struggled there, didn't he? But I think, again, why are you going back to City to play behind Donnarumma? Because I know, obviously, he came in before him, didn't he? But you're still fighting with Ortega, who had displaced Ederson. I think Ederson was still floating around at the time as well. So you still look at it battling for number one. You're not guaranteed to be the starter. It's a World Cup year again, so you're going to want to be playing as much football as you can just to get in the England squad. At this moment in time, he's not guaranteed to be going to the USA, is he? I would say he's probably fighting potentially with a Ramsdale and Pope. So Pope's probably sitting third. You've got Henderson as second, and you've got Pickford as one. And I don't understand players, especially goalkeepers, because you have less opportunities other than the Carabao Cup and maybe the FA Cup. You're not going to displace your number one goalkeeper in the league. You're just not going to do it unless you're really tightly matched in terms of ability. So Trafford, he's miles behind Donnarumma. He's one of the best in the world. He's about 8'3". I think he's got about a 2-meter wingspan or something like that. They were saying the other day. So he's a big lad. He's been at the top of his game for a number of years, but still, was he 25? Is he 26? Still young. So again, mentality. What goes through your head to think, I'm going to go back there and sit on the bench in the World Cup here? So a good goalkeeper, he is a good goalkeeper. He's certainly improved from what he was, but he's got to go and play first team football. I think he'd be potentially he'd give Pope more of a run for his money than Ramsdale would. But I don't buy into this all going as a second string goalkeeper and not playing games of football. I mean, what is he, about 22? Is he 23? Trafford, real young lad.
23,
yeah, it makes no sense to me at all.
I think Fox has nailed this one with his comment here. The bang average English goalkeeper segment of the show, including Jordan Pickford.
As we were saying there, Foxy, Jordan Pickford is not in the conversation because he's levels above. So everyone else we've discussed are in that bang average collection. Jordan Pickford is potentially one of England's best ever goalkeepers. Let's be perfectly honest. Let's not stand on ceremony here. Let's just say it how he is. And if you had him, you'd have that goalkeeper that you wanted. You can distribute a football, and he'd win your points. And you'd probably be on there for probably win the league. If he was in your side, he's that good. So,
I agree. I agree. He does have a very, very good all-round game. But I've always wondered, why has no big club ever gone for him?
They have.
Because Everton.
I think it's just stupid fucking faces he pulls every time he makes a save.
Let's be honest. Everton were really, really poor. Like, they were shocking for 3 or 4 years. They were languishing in relegation battles, this, that, and the other, time and time again. There was a moment where teams could have plucked him away. There's moments where they could have, if they really wanted to. Now you're saying that there has been interest. Personally, I've not seen it. It's not been in the media or readily talked about. Heavy links that we're coming for him. We want him. We're going for him. I've personally not seen that. I don't know, Dad, Chris, you might have seen things I certainly haven't. So I've always wondered this. I've always thought, good goalkeeper, but I've always thought England number one, gone to many like big competition with England and done well in those. Why has no big club plucked him out? Like, I'm looking, for example, a situation. I know, look, Man City got Donnarumma, but if they wanted someone like Ederson, Jordan Pickford's probably close to Ederson in like for like, really, as a type of goalkeeper that you're going to get. I know they've got Donnarumma and he's a world-class goalkeeper, but in a very different way. Like, I'm just looking at certain teams and I'm thinking, why have they never ever gone for Pickford? I do find it baffling, really.
United wanted Pickford, and I know someone's mentioned United. United wanted Pickford, and they quite heavily wanted Pickford a few years ago, and he turned him down. And Jordan Pickford obviously doesn't wilt on the big stage. It doesn't bother him. He could play for Real Madrid, and I don't think it'll bother him because he's that kind of character. And the problem with Jordan Pickford is he is a character, and in the modern game, that's almost frowned upon because people don't like people to express themselves. But getting back to the point, he was being linked with United. I think I'm pretty sure that Spurs at one point were in for him. Jordan Pickford, obviously we took them from Sunderland when they got relegated as a young goalkeeper. He came in. He's been on number one pretty much ever since. He had a little wobble in the 2020-21 season because I remember going to your place and I think Olsen played in goal and Pickford was struggling. A lot of the stuff around, obviously, the Van Dijk tackle and things like that, he got death threats. And when he came to your place, sometimes mentally, that was the one place that he couldn't handle going to because he'd just get carried away, wouldn't he? And he would be pulling faces and pulling tongues and acting silly. What he did is he went away and saw a sports psychologist. And if it wasn't for Jordan Pickford, Everton wouldn't be in the Premier League. It's that simple. But I think it's just from what I hear, one, he loves a football club. Two, his family, which is the most important thing in his life. And obviously, Everton aren't. They're massively settled. They love where they live. They love the football club. They got a good bond there. It's not too far. He wants to go home to Sunderland, which he does quite regularly. It's not too far from there. So from a sort of personal perspective, it really, really suits him. And I think he thinks potentially in a way he owes something to Everton because we're the ones who took that gamble on Jordan Pickford from a young goalkeeper who got relegated. We spent the big money on him. We stuck with him. We made sure that we got him the help that he needed. And that for me is the reason why. Because I'll tell you right now, bar the odd side, you look at the goalkeepers in the Premier League, who do you sort of put above him? He walks into Chelsea's side because Sanchez is another goalkeeper who's...
I thought Chelsea would have gone for him, mate. Chelsea.
Yeah. But again, though, it's if you don't get the right sort of signals from the player, because there's always, interest comes all season round, little conversations. If you want a conversation with Pickford's agents, pick up the phone. If he goes back and says, listen, he's not interested, that's the end of that. It's as simple as that. And I can never see Pickford moving down to London either, to be honest. But, Sanchez is poor. You look at the keepers who are currently better. Alisson is still up there as one of the best in the world on his day. Donnarumma is going to be up there, obviously, ahead of Pickford. And then David Raya, who people rave about, who I think is a good goalkeeper, but still makes mistakes. Do you know what I mean? So he's not as good, I don't think, as people... If you put Raya in, say, our side, he does no better than Jordan Pickford, in my opinion. So Pickford, for me, would get an Arsenal side. The only side I think that Pickford wouldn't get him, and Pickford says it himself, in terms of who's better, it's probably Liverpool, because he's a very good goalkeeper, shot stopper with his feet, reads the game very well. And that's probably the only side I look at. And maybe City, because Donnarumma's Donnarumma, but certainly top three for me. And that's just how I feel about him. And people can say, obviously, we're biased, but we see him week in, week out. Some of the saves that he makes are ridiculous. He's not the biggest goalkeeper. And I know, obviously, there's this thing about having short arms and stuff like that. And that's he's not a very tall goalkeeper.
It's the truth.
But the weakest part of his game is he doesn't command his area because he's not that big. He's got a decent spring, of course he has, but he's never going to be that goalkeeper. But given the attributes that he has got and the size of him and what have you, he's very, very, very good. And I just think that sometimes a club suits a player. And I discussed mentality before about obviously these goalkeepers who come in and you go, well, what's the difference? Well, they're just, they're going to Newcastle to be number 2, yeah, but not playing football. He plays every single week. He's adored by the fan base. He probably gets his big kicks, his challenges in terms of potentially trying to win trophies, because obviously we've struggled for so long with England. He goes away with England, and England, to be fair, how they haven't won a trophy since Pickford's been a goalkeeper, I don't know. I mean, if other people did the job in Euro 2020, because he did his job in the penalty shootout, England obviously win the Euros, don't they? But I think he gets sort of that side of things in terms of potentially winning something with England. We're hopefully now pushing that way. But sometimes it's just a good fit. He's playing all the time. He's loved. He loves the club. He loves where he lives. That's really important for his family. They're all settled. And for me, simple as that. And I don't think now, I mean, he signed a new deal, didn't he, a few weeks ago? I don't think now you'll prize him away from us. I think he might go back to Sunderland for his swan song when he's a bit older, for a season, maybe, because that's his club. But Everton's goalkeeper now for the next probably 3 or 4 years before he sort of either retires or, as I say, goes back to Sunderland.
How old is he, Mike?
31, I think. Yeah. So that's his last big contract. Is the one he's just signed. But listen, he's been great for us, and I know obviously you don't like him, but he's a lunatic. He's a bit mad. He's a character, and as I say, that's frowned upon in the modern age, sadly. The fact that he is, you can't be yourself on a football pitch. Whereas you go past, over the years, like, the biggest and the best players in the world, but characters, weren't they? Gaza, absolute lunatic. Do you know what I mean? But what a player he was. The Canio off his head, pushing referees and going mixing in Italy. Yeah, there's just so many, isn't it? There's just so many of them. But nowadays, it's all, you've got to be a robot, haven't you, in every sort of walk of life. But he's not, and we love him for it.
Okay, so let's get down to business then, for the game on Saturday. You're going into this game bouncing in with confidence. We're going in this game with zero confidence with regards to playing away from home. Our form has been dreadful. The last time we won away from home in the league was back in April, away to relegated Leicester. So we are in a difficult moment right now. I just wanted to ask you really quickly, Mike. I know Seamus Coleman had to go off after about 10 minutes with an injury. So I'm assuming he's not going to make the game on Saturday. Has that been confirmed yet or not?
Very, very, very quiet. David Moyes keeps things very, very close to his chest, but the way in which he went off, I think he crossed the ball, and we sort of noted that straight away after crossing the ball. I think he looked at it and it went to the goalkeeper's hands. He turned around to the bench and signalled something. So when something like that happens and there's no contact with a player, it's going to be a muscle injury, isn't it, of some kind. He struggled with injuries. Obviously, David Moyes felt that he had 2 consecutive starts for Ireland in the international break, performed really well, was great against Portugal. We roll on back the years and what have you. He thought, well, he's built up his match fitness. We've had a bit of a struggle at right back because Jacob O'Brien's been playing there, and then he put James Garner there for Fulham, which I thought was a lot better. Then Coleman goes off and O'Brien comes on and James Garner stays in the centre mid. So I think, sadly for Seamus Coleman, his body now was letting him down. What is he, 37 years of age, I think he is. He signed a new 1-year deal in the summer because David Moyes wanted him around the football club, and he was an extra body. He spent a lot of time this season injured already, even before then. So I can't see him playing any kind of part on Saturday, to be honest with you, unless it was just he's frightened himself because he's felt something and thought, I can't risk it again. But we've seen it a couple of times with him where he does that. It happened against Southampton, obviously the last game at Goodison Park. Coleman literally played 5 or 10 minutes just because it was Seamus Coleman. And then he went off, he said his goodbyes and went off. And sometimes, you know, age catches up with you. And I think since he broke his leg against Wales, that's, you know, all those years ago, he never returned as the same player. You know, he never faltered his heart and his effort and his commitments. He's Mr. Everton. He's a fabulous fella, lovely fella. You know, loves the football club. I'd say going back to, say, 2013-14, the two, looking at the time, and the two best fullbacks of the Premier League were Seamus Coleman and Leighton Baines.
Do you think he'll follow Baines into the backroom staff, Mike?
David Moyes wants him to, and I know he has been doing his badges off the top of my head. I think he has been working towards that. He wants to keep him around the club. He thinks that at the moment, he's the connection between the players and the fans, really. You know, he's the one who, whether he's playing or not, whether he's fit or not, he's there. He's the one who's sort of whipping the players up. He's the one who deals with everything as club captain as well. So I think it's really, really important for David Moyes, especially in this transitional period, and obviously with the move to the stadium. He lent on Seamus Coleman quite a bit, and he still does now. You know, so I think coaching is potentially what he will do. I think you've got to want to be a coach, haven't you? Because not all the best players are good coaches or good managers. It's been proven over time. But I think the way that he's spoken, he has done his badges. I think at Everton, you've got to earn your stripes. Leighton Baines obviously started. I think he was with the 18s first of all, and then he's moved himself up. David Moyes wanted to move him up. He's got a good reputation now as a coach, so he's there obviously with David Moyes. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Seamus Coleman coaching next season. Start maybe
after the World Cup. After World Cup, Mike.
Listen, I absolutely love him. Love it to see him at the World Cup. What a swan song that would be for him. You know, it'll be fabulous to see him over there. You know, obviously I've got to go through the whole qualification rounds now, and we all hope he gets there because we all love him. And the only gutting thing is that for both him and Leighton Baines, the chances are he'll retire without a trophy. Leighton Baines retired without a trophy for Everton, and they both deserve one. But yeah, it'd be a fitting swan song for him. He gets to go over there, Ireland qualify, and he gets to play in obviously his first World Cup. But what a servant he's been. I can't speak high enough of him. But sadly, I think unfortunately the age has caught up with him.
Absolutely, and I think Nathan Patterson was injured as well. Going into the game at Old Trafford, so not sure if there's been any confirmation on that one. So definitely question marks over one or two players. But just what do you think your team will be? It obviously can't be the same team that started against Man United because Gay is suspended. So what kind of formation, what team are you putting out there, fella? Let us know.
Well, as we always say, obvious choice in goal, isn't it? Big Jordan Pickford in there.
Someone's got to have him. No, someone's got to have him.
Left back Mykolenko. There's nobody else. We signed Adam Asnou in the summer as well, a young kid from Bayern Munich who's yet to make a Premier League start. So he's a work in progress, very young Moroccan international. So, but at the moment, no sign of him sort of breaking through. He'll be in the squad, but he won't play. So Mykolenko's an easy pick. If you go right back first of all, I think you'll go back with Jake O'Brien. Just judging by the fact that when he made that change against United, it was O'Brien on like for like, and he played him at right back. And one thing that O'Brien has struggled with this season, bear in mind he's about 6'10". He's massive, and he's playing right back, so you can imagine he's not particularly quick. So when he's got a small winger, he's got that turn of pace. Against sort of West Ham especially, we noticed that he really struggled with like Somerville and Bowen and players like that. So he's not particularly quick, O'Brien, but I do think he'll put him there because he likes James Garner in centre mid. Centre halves picked themselves at the moment as well in James Tarkowski and Michael Keane.
What's the situation with Branthwaite? How long is he out for?
I've heard New Year before we see him back. He was close, wasn't he? He was back in full training. We thought he was going to be in the squad for, I don't think what game it was now, I can't even remember. But he was due back about maybe 4 weeks ago, and he was training, he was back, and then all of a sudden he broke down. So I think it's hamstring that he's currently got a bit of an issue with. He reminds me a little bit of Jack Rodwell. Jack Rodwell was one of those who struggled massively as a young player with his hamstrings.
He's had a lot of hamstring injuries, I was going to say, already.
Yeah. Well, he's quick. He's a big, strong, powerful, quick centre half, isn't he? And I think when he's still probably growing. What is he now? 22? Is he 23? He's still probably growing. So you do tend to get those kind of injuries. The important thing is that it doesn't sort of set him back, because you do see players who get injuries young, and it can tail the career basically. But I mean, you see Tarkowski, he's got a big scar down his hamstring because obviously he suffered that injury at the back end of last season and missed a fair few games, and he had to have an operation. And he's come back, and he's taken a bit of time, but he's settled again now. He's the usual James Tarkowski. So you hope that Brantley can come back and be the same player. He's young enough, obviously, but those hamstring injuries are a bit of a concern at the moment. Central mid, go back to that. I think James Garner will definitely be in there. And I also think Irabunum as well. That'll be our midfield too.
Okay.
Because there's no one else as well. People are talking about potentially will he drop Dewsbury Hall back into there? I don't think he will. He likes him in the 10. I don't think he probably thinks he'll lose too much there, David Moyes, by putting Dewsbury Hall further back. So they'll be the midfield too. Pick themselves left and right. Left hand side, Jack Grealish. Right hand side, Iliman and Jai.
Happy with Grealish's contribution so far?
Yeah, he's a lovely player, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? The funniest thing I heard of the match against Fulham the other week was that he's, from an Everton fan sitting behind me, was that he's too predictable. And I just sat there and saying, I looked at him and thought, you haven't got a clue. What have we had for the last how many years? And you're sitting there telling me that this fella's too predictable. He's the most foul player in the Premier League because people just can't get near him. He draws a lot of fouls, he relieves a lot of pressure, he carries the ball well. The problem with Grealish with us sometimes is that he's about 2 steps ahead of anyone else. And that sometimes is a problem when you've got to play it on a particular level. Other players can't read it because they haven't got the same kind of football brain. But he's been great. I mean, different kind of performance from him against United because he was asked to basically become a second fullback on the left-hand side. So, you lose the attacking side of his game there. But it was needs must. But yeah, great signing. And his mate on the other side there, Iliman and Jai, we saw it last season. You've seen it this season. What a player. What a player. I don't think anyone... I think he's got the best feet of the football club. He carries the ball so well. He's got that little turn of pace. Eye for a goal. Playing off the right this season as opposed to the left last season. So he's very much... Not so much cutting inside, if you like. He's very much going on the outside, getting crosses in, coming in at the back post himself and putting the ball in the back of the net. So lovely player. And the concerning thing is that, in the summer World Cup year, Senegal have obviously qualified as well. Is that what happens in the summer because he'll have plenty of suitors after him come July time. So that's a concern. But listen, let's hope that we can match his ambition. In the number 10, Dewsbury Hall again picks himself, currently keeping Alcaraz out of contention and out of the side. Obviously, Alcaraz scored a goal against you last game of the season, and we thought, obviously, when we signed him on a strange 2-year deal, which never made much sense either, but that suggests to me that David Moyes wasn't overly sold on him, although we like him. We thought he'd be the one who'd sort of be playing week in, week out, and it's not really happened this season, which is a bit of a surprise. But Dewsbury Hall's been fantastic. He's come in, scored a couple of goals, had a few assists, carries the ball really well and gets us up the pitch. So rightfully starts. And then up top will be Tieno Barry, who's starting to start regularly. All he needs is a goal. It's the only thing that's been missing. Should have scored against Sunderland with absolutely shocking miss. But he starts to look like a decent striker. I mean, again, the job he had to do against United on Monday, when he literally, it was long ball after long ball to try and relieve the pressure. He think he won the most aerial duels of any Premier League player this season, which was 14. And he started to really show for us, and that's really good. So we're hoping that Saturday is the first time we see him put the ball in the back of the net.
You touched on it before earlier on in the show, but just for the viewers that might have not watched Everton play, what's your style? How do you play? I know you touched on your more sort of ball possession team than you were in previous seasons. Like, just tell us a little bit about your style and what we'd expect to see on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much now, Everton historically in the last, say, 3-4 years, it was very much built around your number 9, wasn't it? And having a mobile, quick number 9 in, say, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who had that, he was good in the air, had a good spring and what have you. It was built around sort of going long, sitting fairly deep. Obviously under Sean Dyche especially, that's what we used to do. It was very much containment and reliance on set pieces and things like that. And it was fairly effective at times. But once David Moyes came in, he very much said, listen, we've got to start playing a little bit of football. We've got to want the ball. We've got to get the ball down. We can't have a reliance on obviously going long all the time and picking up free kicks and set pieces and what have you. So I think that at the moment, it's very much, utilising our wide players as best we can. We have our full-backs, not the best overlapping full-backs in the Premier League, I've got to be honest with you. Mykhalenko, if you watch on Saturday, Mykhalenko goes past Grealish all the time. Grealish sees who it is and turns back and goes the other way because Mykhalenko can't cross the road, never mind cross a football. So it's funny to watch because we get on to every single time, he just goes, nah, it's okay, mate, I'll go back inside. And obviously Jake O'Brien is a big, massive centre-half playing right back. So his first thought is not always to be overlapping the winger and trying to put a cross in. When Garner was there, get that, because James Garner is a midfielder, so we've got an attack in mind and he's got a good delivery. So that's where we were a little bit more balanced. But obviously with these two at full-back, we don't. But that is still the aim, because David Moyes, again, going back to Baines and Coleman, David Moyes loved his attacking overlapping full-backs, didn't he? And he had two of the best at the time. So if we had, I think, a couple of decent full-backs, it probably evolves Everton even further into a better side and a more attacking side. But we're a work in progress, but we still like to get the ball down now. And as I say, those two wide players, Dewsbury as well, they're quite mobile. Grealish he'll hug the left-hand side. Even when the ball's on the far side, he will hug the left-hand side, look to sort of spread the play, switch the play, and obviously turn the opposition players around. And then you get that bit of space then because he's so far wide. And Jaya will be coming inside, outside. Dewsbury will be obviously swapping over with him as well. So we will look to get the ball down, utilise those wide players and those attacking players with obviously the comfort of your Irabuna or normally Garner Gagan and James Garner sort of sitting behind. So it's going to be interesting, it really is. But ideally, we'd have obviously Garner Gagan there, James Garner at right back, and I'd be probably a little bit more confident going into the weekend if we had that than I am with that current setup.
Just looking at your last few possession stats, you had something like 54% possession at home to Tottenham in the last one, and then in the last game after that, you had 50% as well. So definitely getting on the ball a lot more and holding possession a lot more for your team. That'd be interesting, boys, from a Newcastle perspective. We'll have to talk about that. But let's talk about the Newcastle lineup then. Let's talk about what we would expect from the Newcastle lineup, and then we can get maybe Mike's thoughts on that one. So, boys, what are we thinking? Big question marks in a number of different positions, as always this week, but probably more so now than ever. Where are we going with it?
Well, so we kind of usually hand it over to one person and then press the buzzer. Maybe we'll do it together this time, Chris, position by position. How about that?
I'll be honest,
yeah.
and I don't know whether we're going to disagree before we've even kicked off, but I've been thinking about this today. I think we're going 4-3-3. I was thinking so 5. I think we're going to go 4-3. Oh, well, there you go. So
we agree on the formation. And I've listened to Mike. I've started to get a bit of confidence, especially. And then I think, we're playing away. I forgot that. But then I started to get it back again because we have our pacey wing backs, let's say, now back in. So let's go for keeper Ramsdale.
Yeah.
Mike Hooper's in goal for you.
Yeah, I think even though Eddie's protected Nick Pope in the media, which is what we would expect anyway, I do think he will go with Ramsdale.
Yeah. We go for Hall and Tino.
Yeah, Hall and Tino, 100%. Obviously, Hall came on yesterday, didn't he? But he didn't start, and I think that is with this game in mind. And obviously, Tino Livramento has to be right back, particularly because apparently Kevin Trippier isn't going to be back anyway.
It feels good to be able to put these in knowing that they're actually going to play it this weekend, which is great stuff. So, your centre-back pairing, big question marks.
Give us Botman and Malik Chow.
Ooh,
for
is
me.
that what you're saying?
What was that, Daz?
I want Botman and Malik Chow.
Right, okay. Interesting. Would you have gone for anyone else?
Yeah, the only thing I would change, Malik Chow has. I mean, I don't know if you've seen much of Malik Chow, Mike, but he's been absolutely outstanding this season. Malik Chow is one of the first names on the team sheet. I still think he'll go with Shah. I don't know what's going on with Sven Botman. Obviously, he had a poor couple of games, and you know, Mike, how highly we rate Sven Botman. But I just think, well, maybe you're right, Daz. I don't know. Maybe is that why he held him back for that Marseille game? Yeah, do you know what? Let's stick with it. But I
wouldn't be surprised if it's Dan Burn, but that's who I would.
Well, yeah, we haven't even took that into consideration, have we? And particularly if we go with a back four and Dan Burn isn't in the team, is that the start of the evolution? Hopefully so.
The three amigos in midfield there.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruno Holden, Joe Litton on the left.
Bruno on the right, yeah. Bruno on the right.
Yeah.
Tonali Holden.
Yeah. I was going to say, you played tonight. You said Bruno Holden. I was thinking.
Oh, did I say Bruno Holden?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still scarred, aren't I, from that time when we had to play Bruno in that Holden position and we were all screaming for Tonali to be playing. Yeah.
No, let's get the easy one out of the way. Big Nick Waltermaid as our striker.
Yeah.
On the right, even though he had a disaster of a game, he's still not great away from home sometimes. But it's putting in the supply to Nick Waltermaid. No, Murphy for me.
Well, funny you should say that, Pete, because I was thinking, like Daz, obviously we've got a few options now. I tell you what, boys, and this is controversial. I kind of feel like for this game you have to start Anthony Gordon, and I don't want to start Anthony Gordon on the left. Harvey Barnes should be starting on the left.
Harvey Barnes on the left for sure. But
yeah.
So now I'm benching Gordon on the right. Be glad to hear Mike.
I mean, just sorry, as a neutral in this situation, for me, how you've got to start Harvey Barnes, surely, just from the sheer fact that he's in such good form, and even watching a bit last night, you know, a couple of times, lucky not to get a goal cutting inside on his right foot, and Anthony Gordon, I know he's not at the best of the season, but I think he'd be playing into our hands if he played Anthony Gordon, to be honest with you, because this place, I mean, Goodison Park was a you know, the proverbial bear pit at the best of times. You know, it's for certain games. If you play Anthony Gordon at the weekend, it's going to be absolutely toxic, and he probably go off crying after about 15 minutes. So, you know, although he's not scared of any defender he comes up against, apparently, according to the podcast he was on with Gary Neville, he'd go off crying. So you better play him. I like Murphy, I think Murphy's a very good player. I think he's very, very good. Surprising the Langer's not settled probably as much as I thought he might, because I like the Langer at Forest. When you look at the options that you've got there in attack, there's plenty of options that you've got, and that's the concern for me from our perspective, is because of the fullback situation that we've got. Mikalenko's a very defensive fullback, but I think he struggles as well, even defensively, and Jacob Bryan's a centre half playing right back, so that's always a concern. So for us, we've got to keep holding the ball a little bit and trying to turn you around. But it's as I say, I wouldn't be putting Anthony Gordon anywhere near that side, especially after his penalty miss last season, which was quite funny, wasn't it? That we living in his at the front of his head.
Yeah, do you know what, Mike? I'm the reason I'm throwing the Gordon card is purely because, you know, Gordon has not been good this season. He's not been good. You'll probably see all the comments in the chat. Gordon has not been good this season, and we keep getting told, and he keeps telling us, that he's like this mentality monster. And I think if he can't get up for this game, he's not going to get up for any game. And I don't know. But then equally, Murphy's the steady shout, which Daz has said. And I was thinking of Langard as well. Pete, do you know what? It's a really, really difficult one. Really, really difficult one. I don't know. Part of me wants to throw Gordon and just see if it sparks a reaction. But the problem is, and I suppose this may cause another issue, is the fact that he wants to play on the left, and we all know why he wants to play on the left, because he wants to get in that England squad and make that left wing spot his own. So maybe by putting him right wing is going to cause your own problem, because you know full well that Bukayo Saka's got the right wing slots, in his back pocket for England. But I don't know. Pete, what do you think?
I've had a lineup in mind coming into this show, and it's not necessarily the lineup that I would want, but this is what the lineup that I think Eddie Howe will go for.
Looking for Pope, any?
Yeah. Honestly, my head will be on Mars when I see this lineup, because I'm just listening to Eddie Howe's comments after the game. Just said everything to me, and I read them out to you boys, and I didn't really think about it much at the time. But when we came offline, I actually watched the interview, and he made me feel like he's going to go with Pope again. And I just feel like he's going to go with Pope, and it's not what I want. I want Ramsdale, as I've mentioned numerous times, but I think that's what he's going to go for. And another one.
Oh God!
Honestly. And look, let's be honest. Like, Dan Burn at centre back hasn't been bad.
Yeah,
he's been bad at left back, not at centre back. But I genuinely feel like this guy, you can't play football without this guy in the team. And I for some reason, it goes back to my point that I made yesterday. I felt that Botman was really hard done, but I hope that Botman didn't play yesterday because they're waiting or allowing him to rest in order to be ready for this game on Saturday. That's what I hope. But what I feel might happen is that Dan Burn has been shoehorned in ahead of Sven Botman, and he'll play in a back two with Malik Chow. And that's what I genuinely believe will happen. The third thing,
Pete, sorry, just to interject, just because Mike might be thinking, why on earth are you all moaning because Dan Burn's playing? It's not that we dislike Dan Burn, Mike, and it's not that we think Dan Burn's not a good player, because he is. Our issue is that Eddie Howe can be a bit stubborn, and he will shoehorn Dan Burn into the team regardless of what formation we play. We've seen Dan Burn playing left back. We all agree that he's not a left back, and it's almost that we're wanting him not to play Dan Burn just to prove a point that he doesn't have to always put Dan Burn in. If Dan Burn plays centre back, as Peter's just said, it's fine. Like, he will do well at centre back. There's no doubt about it. But you're leaving a Sven Botman on the bench, and he is the future. He is the one who should be starting regularly in this team. And yeah, that's why we were saying what we were saying.
And he needs to sign a contract, and we're half afraid that he might end up in a red jersey around your neck of the woods, Mike.
Botman.
He's got a year left on his contract in the summer.
I was going to say, because I can't see Dan Burn sign Liverpool, but Botman maybe so. And that's, by the way, I'm not slating Dan Burn, because he is what he is. He's done well for himself, of course. Yeah. But yeah, it's a dangerous game, isn't it? I mean, I'm looking at your squad there, and the talent that you've got on the side of your squad, and the players that you're trying to keep happy. And that's the difficult thing, is when you're obviously a Champions League side and you're fighting on 4 different fronts. There should be enough games for everybody, but managers will always have their favourites. I mean, I was going back to Sean Dyche, and Dwight McNeil could do whatever he wants week in, week out, and he'd start for Sean Dyche. And it was just one of those things where now David Moyes comes in and he can't get a look in Dwight McNeil. So it's one of those. Managers will always have players that they trust regardless of that. And so obviously Dan Burn is one of those players, but look at your centre half options, and for me, it'd probably be about 4th choice based on the names more so than maybe looking at how they play. But obviously, like Chow and Shear and Botman, certainly for me would be ahead of them.
Yeah, and the last one for me in terms of the change is this. This is what I think he will do. This is the team that I had in my mind that I think that I thought he would play at the weekend, and it's not the team that I would play. If you're asking me, I'd be playing Ramsdale, I'd be playing Sven Botman, and I would be playing Jacob Murphy just. And the reason why I say just is because he hasn't been good away from home this season.
Yeah,
he hasn't been good away from home, and maybe that might be part of Eddie Howe's thinking, because Murphy at St James's Park is a different animal. He's a different beast at St James's Park. That stadium, that pitch does something to Jacob Murphy because he plays with so much freedom and creativity. He plays so different to when he plays away. When he plays away, he's giving the ball away. He's very unsure in his positioning and what he should be doing on the ball. He's very hesitant. And this is not just what we saw in Marseille, because he played a slightly different role. He played a deeper role in Marseille, which is where you don't want him to be. You want him to be more attack-minded and getting forward. So I don't really hold it on him from that. But Brentford, West Ham, you go back through other games as well. I'll go back to Leeds in particular. I watched him earlier on in the season. He really wasn't good there either. He hasn't played well away from home. And this is not a justification for me starting Gordon, but this is just what I think he will do, because I know what Mike's saying about, it'll be a cauldron, it'll be toxic, etc., etc. But I think Eddie Howe will be looking at it and going, having Anthony Gordon on the bench going back to Everton is probably more detrimental to him and maybe his confidence than it would be starting and then coming off later on in the game, because he'll want to go and he'll want to play against Everton and he'll want to try and prove a point after missing a penalty at Goodison last season. So I think he'll want to play him, and it'll be a shoehorn situation. But Harvey Barnes has to play on the left. Like he has to. Yeah, that's his spot. That spot is nailed down. That's where he needs to be right now. And that's where he needs to play football. So that's the priority. But it's not what I would want with this lineup, but it's what I think, in my opinion, this is what it will be. So we've had kind of three different teams there, because Chris has had a team. I know you talked about maybe Elanga potentially playing. Daz has had a team, and this is kind of what I think might well play. But boys, feel free to jump in with opinions, etc.
No, I think we've covered all bases really. But I think we're all settled that it's 4-3-3. Yeah, and I'm not expecting a 5-3-2 formation. But let's go with the first one.
So we go for for Ramsdale and Botman. There we go. Yeah. So that's what we hope it is, but we'll wait and see. But interesting battle there in midfield. It will be an interesting battle. It'll be interesting to see how Tonali handles Dewsbury Hall and his movement in those little pockets. James Garner, I think, has done really well for Everton. Hasn't got really the praise because he's not the high-profile name being talked about, but I think he's done well at your boys, Mike. You've been impressed with him?
Yeah, the thing I like with James Garner is his flexibility. The fact that he's played this season so far left back, right back, and centre mid, and that's what David Moyes likes, is the fact that he can rely upon him to do whatever job he needs him to do. He doesn't moan about it. He gets on with it. I think technically he's very good. Sometimes he doesn't have a particularly great performance, but I think he's probably consistent is the best word that I can describe him as. And I know obviously Thomas Tuchel was there on Monday, and he was spotted talking to James Garner, and Jack Grealish in the tunnel. I think it's too much of a jump to get near the England squad for the World Cup. Maybe he has a look at him in a friendly, potentially. I don't know. I don't see where he fits in at England at this moment in time. But he's still a fairly young player. Came through at Manchester United, got rave reviews at Forest, and we signed him. And I think he's been there now. This is season number 3, I think, of James Garner. And I always argue he's played his best football at fullback for Everton, and that's probably the surprising thing, because if everyone's fit, he will always start in central midfield. But he does give a great balance to that Everton defence by him playing right back, because he's more attack minded than obviously a Jake O'Brien or obviously now a modern day Seamus Coleman who can't do what he used to do. And Nathan Patterson, I mean, I don't even know if he's still knocking down the ceiling again. Obviously, in about 2 years, he's permanently injured. But yeah, he's done really well. The mind just speaks really highly of him. He's really impressed with him. He's talking him up all the time and saying that he thinks he should be in and around the England squad, and long may that continue. He loves a tackle. As I say, technically he's very good, takes the majority of our set pieces as well. So one to watch at the weekend, and as I say, he liked the battle with obviously Jolinson and Bruno. Obviously Jolinson especially a big lad, very physical. James Garner won't share from that. So look forward to seeing what he can do at the weekend.
I need Jolinton taking some souls on Saturday. I need him taking some souls on Saturday. I need him putting Garner 6 foot in the air. I need him raking the back of the calves of Drewsbury Hall, just unsettling him nice and early, just to ramp it up a little bit. That's what I need to see from Big Joe. But it's going to be interesting battles across the pitch. Here's your lineups. Hopefully we get them right from a Newcastle perspective. Let's wait and see, lads, on there how that one works out. There's a few questions in the chat before we get to predictions. We're going to wrap up very, very shortly. So a few questions to throw at Mike relating to Everton, Newcastle, and Gordon. I think there's one in there for as well.
A couple of tasty ones have just come in. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to them, and there's a little wind up one there as well. So I will definitely come to that one. So Foxiero asks Mike, would Anthony Gordon get in the Everton starting 11?
No, but there's more chance of Gordon Burns from the Krypton Factor getting in the Everton starting 11. He was dislodging. It was what a show that was, by the way. That assault course at the end was an absolute belter, wasn't it? And you remember you always crashed the plane on the simulator. They were always horrendous, weren't they? They couldn't fly the plane either. Well, Anthony Gordon, no, he doesn't displace. He wants to play left or right. You don't get ahead of Njai or Jack Grealish. So very simple question. So they're probably worth 3 or 4 times his value, aren't they? So very, very easy response to that.
And I'm flipping that over. Frieden asks you, Mike, would anyone from Everton get in the Newcastle starting line?
Well, there's an obvious one, isn't there? Jesus Christ. There's an obvious one in between. He walks into your side with a blindfold on. So Jordan Pickford straight away. If he was fit, Jarrett Branthwaite, I think would be one of the centre halves. You can pick the other one yourself, because either Tarkowski and Keane wouldn't get in there, or Jake O'Brien. I don't think any more of our defenders will get into your side. No, certainly not. I think we'd struggle to displace your midfield 3, to be honest with you. I think the only one I'd look at is maybe Garner Gay, but I like Tonali. I think he's very, very good. And obviously you've got the 2 other lads who they've proven it now for quite a few years, the ability that they've got. I think that's the best part of your side, is your midfield 3, to be honest with you. In attack, you'd have Voltemade, obviously down the middle, and you'd have Njai and Grealish either side, wouldn't you? And that side could probbe win the league. Do you know what I mean? It's a pretty. It's not about. There he is. Look at that. There he is. His hairline is so far back there, isn't it? Look at how he sweeps his hair forward. I think bloody Bobby Charlton. But he was a Gordon Burns. Yeah, he was on Granada, wasn't he? He was in our neck of the woods in the northwest. So yeah, what a show that was. But yeah, I think that'll be probably the split for me. I do think that we've got players who are good enough to mix and match with your players, but I think probably maybe currently like a 7-4 split, maybe at the best 6-5 in your favour, because we are where we are. You know, we're not going to be uprooting any kind of trees, and we're a side who's building, and that's the honest truth. And I know obviously we always get carried away and we have a bit of a laugh and a joke, but Everton are a mid-table side, in my opinion. You've got to be honest. You know, I know we talk up our chances and things like that, as all football fans do, but at the moment you are ahead of us. Of course, you are in the Champions League. You won your first trophy since 1833 or something last year, which was great for yourselves. So you're a side still on the up. You're a few years ahead of us in terms of building. So yeah, but I think that's a pretty fair split, and I think if that side happened, it'd be a side that challenged. I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Jeannie Esther asks you, Mike, and I really like this question because this was a link that I think we heard in the summer, and it'd be interesting to see if there is any truth in it. Jeannie Esther says Everton need a couple of full-backs, which is what you mentioned earlier on. And then a striker like Ivan Toney. Now, I remember you were linked with Ivan Toney. Do you think you will be looking for a striker, possibly in January?
Possibly. I think a lot would depend on whether Beto was moved out, whether it was on loan or a permanent deal. And we like Beto. He gives absolutely everything, of course, but we know also he's limited ability-wise as well. Tieno Barry's come in for decent money. Obviously, he's a young lad. I think he's 23, and as I said earlier on, he's got to be given time to adjust, and we're starting to see a bit of that now. So a striker maybe on the cards. Ivan Toney, do you think he's going to leave Saudi where he's paying no tax and getting 300 grand a week? Probably not. It's a World Cup year, but I think he's miles from the England squad now. I think he's as far away as he's ever been, which is a surprise. But when you obviously move over to Saudi when you're in your peak years and move from the Premier League, and you could have signed for Arsenal and been their main striker, again, mentality seems to be a bit of a theme with me tonight. I don't like it. I think it's really poor judgment, and I know it's a short career, but you can go and over there. I mean, Salah will go over there, won't he? Probably next season, I would have thought. After getting his mega bucks with Liverpool. So there's time for that. If you've got ambition, if he goes to Arsenal, Ivan Toney, the chances are he could win the Premier League. We'd be in the England squad, the England manager and the coaching staff would see a lot more of him. So he's almost put himself out of pasture in a way. Although, if he came to us, he'd be our best striker by a country mile from day one. But I just don't think it's feasible. But I think potentially, we could be in the market for a striker. But as David Moyes always says, it's a terrible window, January. You don't get any kind of bargains because you know that you're desperate and you need to sign players for a reason at that particular point in the season. So maybe, but the full-back positions are the big issue for me at Everton. Both left and right back need to be replaced and need to be sorted. And whether that's January or the next transfer window, they're the top of the list for me.
Just really quickly, I've just watched PSV's second goal. Van Dijk defending is an absolute disgrace. It is. It's so
I've got Arsenal on there. Let me flick over there.
It's so bad. Look, by the way, I'm not taking anything away from PSV. The ball and the finish is fantastic. He's half marking the guy in front of him, and then he's well out of position for that ball to be played through the two centre back. It's a lovely finish from Till. Such a good finish. Fully deserved. Really, really good goal. I just wanted to say. And look, the hate watch continues. So I just wanted to throw that. Carry on. What a great night.
I can't turn it on, Pete, because if I do, Liverpool will score. I'm going to win. So that's
no.
That's why I can't turn it on.
We had a deal.
Don't worry. I'm all for that deal.
Just a comment here from Tony Tambridge. I love this, Tony. What happens in Marseille stays in Marseille. Am I right? Absolutely, you are right, Tony. We don't talk about Marseille. We've done that. We've been through it. No more.
Simples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Simples.
Let me see now. Two more, mate. Okay, so, and we did briefly touch on this player earlier, but Ginny has to ask you, was Tyler Dibbling a Moyes signing, or do you believe he was maybe a signing made by the board, perhaps?
David Moyes signs off on every single signing at Everton. He plays a major part in transfers. That's how he likes it. We've moved away from the director of football model. So in conjunction with, I think his official title is CEO Angus Kinnear, they're the ones, and obviously with the scouts and things like that as well, and the recruitment team. But David Moyes signs off. So yeah, he wanted Tyler Dibbling. Obviously, I mean, to go into it a bit further, big money for a player of his age. He's had a decent season at Southampton, hence why he had all the interest. They kept on pushing us, and we came to an agreement in the end. The talk at the training ground is that he's not the best at trainers, to be honest. So David Moyes will not have anyone shaking. That's rule number one. So if you want to play for our football team and you want to get regular minutes, you got to show me something in training. And I think, to be fair, what's he, 19 years of age, he's been taken out of his comfort zone at Southampton, where they were a side who were, getting beat week in, week out. He had a bit of a free role. He was comfortable there. It's a club that he'd known for a long time. I think he went to Chelsea as a kid, didn't he, and couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
And had to go to Southampton.
Like 3 months, I think it was. Like 2 or 3 months he lasted there.
Which I know, okay, he was younger then, but it's one of those where it's not easy to settle. It's really not. When you're at a club like Southampton, with the best will in the world, they're a yo-yo club. They're not a massive club. They haven't got a fan base that demands probably too much. I think at Everton, expectations, rightly or wrongly, are higher because we are a bigger club and we expect players to conduct themselves in a particular way and to perform a particular way. And I know we've had obviously some lean years, but it doesn't take away from the fact of what we've done over many, many years and how we see ourselves. So, you're jumping from maybe a big fish in a small pond to a small fish in a much bigger pond with massive expectation. And I think that's probably part of it as well. But David Moyes, he gets asked about him quite regularly in the press conference. And I think that he just needs to be given time. He needs to settle. He needs to show a little bit more in training, because when Iliman Ndiaye goes off to African Cup of Nations, he's the ready-made replacement on the right-hand side. But what we've seen is when Ndiaye's gone off, you've seen players like Alcaraz come on, or Dwight McNeil now and again, and players like that. So, Tyler Dibbling, I expect as we go through the month of December to see more of him, because I've seen bits of him. I like when he's come on at times. You can see what he's got. You can see it. And he's a big lad as well. He's a big, tall kid. He looks strong. He can carry the ball really well. He's got really, really quick feet. But if you don't show it on the training ground and your manager thinks your attitude's not quite right, you won't see it the weekend. So he needs, like Tierno Barry, needs to be given a bit of grace, a bit of time, and I'm sure over the next sort of 6, 12, 18 months we'll start to see much more from Tyler Dibbling.
Yeah, no, that's fair, mate. That's fair. And this one, you'll like this last one, mate. Tom Dixon asks you, do you like your new stadium, and is it much better than Goodison Park?
I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm there all the time. My daughter works there. I'm down there taking photographs. I'm doing stadium tours, and you're just hanging around the place because it's...
Giving them, Mike, are you?
What's that, mate?
Are you giving the tours?
No, I've been on it. I couldn't give a tour though. I know everything about it, so quite happy to do unofficial tours on non-match days. We can't get inside, but I'll walk you around the perimeter. But it's a fabulous place. It's a fabulous place, and we have our ties to Goodison Park, of course we do. But for a lot of Evertonians, Goodison Park has been a reminder of failure. To be honest, what am I now? 41. I know I don't look 41, but I'm 41. But it's Goodison Park. What success have we had there? I don't remember the success of the 80s. I was far, far too young. Born 84. I don't remember it. So I don't remember those successful years. I remember relegation battles. I remember Wimbledon, the 3-2, Hans Sagers. I remember Coventry, Gareth Farry. What was that? 98. We had an FA Cup, obviously in 95, but besides that, we had some great moments and great matches and European nights and things like that. But it was never a successful sort of period for me. And I loved the place. It was unique. What a unbelievable stadium. Just cramped in between all those houses in and around the Walton area. You can see their place across the park, obviously really, really close. It was unique, but so is this place. And we've got a fabulous opportunity as a fan base to put our own stamp on it and make it our own. And that's a privilege, to be honest with you. And I can't get enough of it. I'm always there and I want to take it all in.
Matt, can I just ask really quickly? Obviously, we've had all the speculation of our stadium and we've got no further down the road. We don't have an idea, although it is being said that it's likely to be a new stadium. Lots of fans are for it. Lots of fans are not because they don't want to leave the stadium and historic and what it means. Have you been able to hold the atmosphere? Because that's what a lot of fans have looked at with the likes of Arsenal moving over and not keeping what they had at Highbury. And there's other stadiums as well that have been moved from other clubs. Tottenham being another one. They had a cauldron-like atmosphere, maybe not as big as other clubs, but they had an atmosphere at White Hart Lane, and it hasn't quite carried over to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Have you been able to carry that over at Goodison Park?
Yeah, 100%. And more. I think back to what moments have we had, obviously, since we've been here so far. You go back to the first game against Brighton was just electric. It was obviously we got that win. Our first game, we had obviously Jordan Pickford saved the penalty as well, which also added to things. And we had the last minute winner from Grealish against Crystal Palace, which was, I said at the time, there's a stadium christened, because you're waiting for a moment, and that's a moment right there. So for me, the noise, the atmosphere, the buzz of the stadium has been taken from Goodison Park and it's been put on steroids at this place. And the reason why is, one, we were heavily involved as a fan base in the move, in terms of there was a lot of conversations with the architect. There was a lot of questionnaires and all studies put out and everything to make sure that as a fan base we felt included. Because of that, we were built a football stadium. We weren't built a multi-purpose arena. We weren't built an athletic stadium. We weren't built an NFL stadium. We weren't built, obviously, the Emirates. We weren't built a modern football stadium where you're miles from the pitch. It's Goodison Park on steroids. And what I mean by that is that the stands are very, very close to the pitch still. The south stand is as steep as you're allowed in terms of a stand in this day and age. I think it's 0.01 degrees short of the legal limit in terms of the actual angle. That's really, really steep. The way the roof's been designed, it keeps the noise in, so it helps with the acoustics. There's no gaps, obviously, in and around the stadium where the noise can escape, like Goodison Park obviously had. So factor all that in, we've been given and we've been gifted a football stadium, and that's the most important thing. And if you do get the opportunity to move, I think if I was obviously part of your fan base, I'd be insistent on that, because we're getting rugby league there at the moment. Obviously, we've got the Ashes. We've got obviously we've taken the Magic Weekend from yourselves, haven't we? For the next Sunday.
That's a big statement, because the Magic Weekend has always been or has been recently at St James's Park. But you've got that, and that shows a sign of the attraction of the stadium. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You see, it's although it's other events, and we're going to obviously it's just been signed off for concerts and things like that as well. We're going to get all that, which is great. But first and foremost, it was built for football and nothing else. Or everything else. If you want to come and play there, your rugby league, whatever, rugby union, do your concerts, you've got to fit into this football stadium. So take it or leave it. And that's the best thing. And we've got all little nods to history. There's little nods to Goodison Park there. If you're going down there the weekend, you'll see it. The fan plaza. You can see the way they've done the tiles. You can actually see the old outline of the original dock. It's all these little nods. There's all the rope tie bollards are still there from when obviously ships will be docking in the docks. They're there. You've got the old hydraulic tower, which is just it was a hydraulic tower outside the stadium on the on the stadium footprint like that. You know, it's incredible what they've actually done, and I'm delighted to sort of be part of the fan base that has been able to move in and make it our own. And it's a special place, and it had to be, because if you move stadium, it cannot be what you see getting built in some places nowadays. And you've got a great chance. I hope you do. I hope you get the opportunity and you get consulted and you get to put your thoughts across and your owners listen. Because our you know, as much as Monsieur had his faults, he listened, the architect listened, and that's the most important thing. And it's a great place, and it's for us, you know, it's the start of our future, and that's how we see it. And we've been given a great opportunity, and we're thankful of that.
Mike, I was just to add, I was smiling then because, you know, when you said about offering tours out and stuff like that, the way you were waxing lyrical over that, mate. Anybody from the Hill Dick who's watching this, they should be hard on you, mate, because you spoke very passionately. Mike, just before we finish, just before we go to predictions, we have one of our chatters, and he's very, very good on his South American football. He throws names at us all the time, and he's thrown a name here, and I thought I must let you know before you go to keep a lookout for him if you haven't heard of him already. But Foxy, our resident Spanner, Everton have been linked with Franculino, and apparently he would be a top signing. But if anyone knows South American football, it's Foxy.
Listen, I've seen him a combined total of 0 times, but he's a fabulous player. He's a fabulous player, and he'll fit right in. I've never heard of the lad, but I'm sure I'll take Foxy's word for it that he's a talent, and I'll certainly keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Was that Francolino Lampardo? Yeah, he was a good player as well, wasn't he?
Very good, very good. Yeah. I've seen a little bit of Francolino. Good player, very good player. Young player, but lots of bags of potential, as Foxy will always identify. People, we are getting to predictions. So we are going to get down to it. It's been a bumper show tonight. Great chat with Mike. Thank you, Mike, staying as long as you have. It's been brilliant. We always appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us. Of course, we're going to end on predictions. I'm just going to throw it out there. We have to win. I believe this is the time that we need to win. And what better place than our first trip to the Hill Dicko to get this win? I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle United. So I'm going to put my prediction right out there. But Chris, what do you think will be the score on Saturday evening?
Well, Adam Ramsdale's going to be in goal, so I'm saying clean sheet. I'm going 2-0.
Going sheets, confidence. Mike, I'm going to throw the ball to you from an Everton perspective. What do you think?
I'm going to agree with Tony Timebridge there. I've gone for 1-1. Said 1-1 all week, and I'm going to stick with 1-1. This is a difficult game. Listen, as I say, the table's so tight. You had a great win against Man City last weekend. I know obviously you've strolled away from home, but you know wins away from home will come, I'm sure. 2 probably fairly matched sides currently on, you know, where we are on the table. I know we're a little bit ahead, but tight game, entertaining game, I think. But I'm going to say 1-1.
And Daz, to wrap up the predictions, go for it.
Yeah, I'm like you, Pete. I'm saying 2-1. Murphy supplying the ammunition, and Big Nick and Barnes with the scores.
Okay, so lots of different predictions there. Results in. We've got sheets for Chris. We've got 2-1 for Newcastle for me and Daz, and we've got a 1-1 draw for Mike. Make sure you go and subscribe to the Unholy Trinity podcast. Make sure you go check out everything Everton, and maybe check out something Anfield, because the goal has been put on the screen.
3-1. Yeah.
3-1. Is it 3-1?
Yeah, it is 3-1. Yeah. Grant Mitchell there on the sidelines, absolutely fuming.
What minute is it?
Grant or Phil? Which one we going for?
He's definitely Grant. He's definitely Grant. Arnold slot there.
I knew for sure because I could hear noise and I was like, "Where's that coming from?" And downstairs, in my living room, everyone is going mental. So yeah, it's definitely.
Ain't this great? Isn't
Who's in
this
goal,
great?
eh?
It's a great night. It's a great night.
Whoever their goalkeeper is Liverpool's goalkeeper, he'll get a game for you. He's on par with him.
Hey, wouldn't it, lads? Chris,
We were after him.
this is Chris and Dan.
Yeah.
We were.
This is for me.
Mamashvili.
Wouldn't it be great with all the talk of goalkeepers right now? Wouldn't it be great for an absolute Pickford clanger on Saturday evening? Wouldn't it just be great?
There's nothing more certain. There's nothing more certain, is there? You know what I mean? When we have this conversation, it's like you always run the risk, don't you? When I sit here defending Jordan Pickford, and obviously you've got a couple of England goalkeepers who are in your squad, it's something's likely to happen, isn't it? Obviously, we hope it's obviously one of your goalkeepers. But listen, whoever you put in goal the weekend, I expect fireworks. And when I say fireworks, I mean there's going to be a mistake from one of your lot. And if you play, listen, I hope you get your wish. I hope Ramsdale starts, because I'll be absolutely delighted if he starts. I'd score past him with my right foot, and I'm more left-footed than Dwight McNeil. So I'm telling you now, just put him in goal.
Oh my God! It's interesting perspective of Ramsdale. You've thrown me on that tonight. It's one to keep an eye out if he does start. But I'm look. You've heard it here first. Pickford clanger on its way.
Listen, you know, if Ramsdale starts and he cocks up, you know when you do your post-match show, who's going to be in the chat.
Oh, we do exactly.
You know, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be trying to get an invite to the post-match show, because I'm in hospitality on Saturday as well. I've relinquished my usual season tickets to join the Prawn Sandwich Brigade in hospitality. So a few free drinks. I'll me and Nitty, we're in there. Chris going for his a little bit of a shindig, me and him. So I'll be doing it live from the Al Hill Dicko, and I'll be coming on and have a nice chat about Aaron Ramsdale and how he's not a goalkeeper.
Just keep that same energy, Mike. If the results the other way around, just keep that.
If it doesn't, no connection, no internet.
If it doesn't go our way, if it doesn't go our way, I'll be on mobile data, and my phone will not be working correctly, so I can't join the conversation.
Love it. Right, people, we are out of here. Make sure you go subscribe to the Unholy Trinity podcast. And check it out, and let's all check it out on Saturday if we get the win. That's for sure. But look, Mike, pleasure as always. Our predictions are in. Let us know your predictions on the way out, people, and we'll speak to you soon.
Right, let's just go to the radiators to see us out. Right, see you in the next one. See you for the reaction show.
Nice one.
Get closer.